BuzzFeed spoke to 10 former high-level employees at Twitter to figure out why it is that Twitter, among all the social networking websites and apps out there, has such a huge problem with trolling and why it seems like they haven't done much about it. Well, interestingly enough, through all of these interviews, they found that there is a multi-pronged issue within Twitter. A lot of it has to do with the fact that there is disagreement as to whether or not they should go after the trolls. There's also the issue that they can't really decipher what is and is not considered abuse. And finally, there's the issue of revenue, right? If they go after the trolls, if they go after the abuse, will it impact revenue? Will it distract them from focusing on revenue? So we'll get to all of that in a second, but some of the quotes in BuzzFeed were amazing and honestly kind of therapeutic for me because I can absolutely relate. So they write, "It has become a primary destination for trolls and hate groups, so much so that its CEO declared, 'We suck at dealing with abuse and trolls on the platform, and we've sucked at it for years.' Twitter is a well-known hunting ground for women and people of color who are targeted by neo-Nazis, racists, misogynists, and trolls, often just for showing up. On Twitter, abuse is not just a bug, but, to use the Silicon Valley term of art, a fundamental feature." And I think the fundamental feature part is what really resonated with me, because when I think of Twitter now, it's no longer something that is defined as a place to connect, a place to engage, a place to educate yourself, enlighten yourself, and get more information. It's now become a place to get abused if you are a public figure, right? And so, like a little over a week ago, I finally made a decision to just delete my Twitter app. And so I don't get notifications. I never read mentions ever anymore. And if I ever use Twitter, it's literally just to tweet out a story or something that I find interesting from my laptop, and that's it. I never even go to twitter.com. It's like, let me tweet this article.
That's really
Boom.
sad. I totally understand why you would do that, and I'm sure it provided a big sense of relief. You can finally live again.
Totally.
But it's sad. It's sad that you have to do that, because there is a lot of benefits to Twitter. I mean, and being a public figure, it does serve you, but it also is important to be connected to those call to action campaigns and the connectivity and the citizen journalism. And it's sad that you had to make that choice to disengage with what could be a really great network for you because it was causing so much harm.
Well, here's the thing. The costs definitely outweigh the benefits for me.
Yeah.
And I do get that people use Twitter for their careers, but I realized that Twitter had become something that I felt obligated to have to prove my status within this industry. And it's like, okay, yes, I have a following. I have X amount of followers, so it proves that I'm somehow legitimate or credible or whatever it is. That was literally what Twitter had turned into for me specifically. Other people utilize it for, other things that help their profession, and I get that.
Or just help other people in general, or humanity.
Exactly. But again, costs severely outweigh the benefits at this point. Twitter has obviously very little interest in solving this issue. Their filters, you talked about how their filters worked for you. Sorry, I'm spitting a little bit. Did not work for me. Did not work for me. And it's funny because as soon as I deleted that app, all of those people who literally, they hate me so much that they watch every episode, they're even more irrelevant now than they were before. And that feels good to me. I don't have to ever deal with them again, and it's awesome.
One, if you do want to make a return to Twitter, I'll introduce you to Black Twitter so you can just laugh and catch the memes and the hashtags, especially around Thanksgiving and Christmas. Oh, they the best. Things your mama would bring and things your grandma would bring. Things your Uncle Fester gonna bring, or Uncle Junebug. But in your defense, I get it all day long. And since I've, had the pleasure of joining you all on this panel, I've seen a few comments here and there that I get. I just like to clap back because I'm like, we can argue about this. You can threaten me all day long, but I will give you an address where to meet me and we can talk about it in person.
Ooh,
okay. So I'm
Okay.
not really,
Yeah.
but I feel like, this is what you do every day. And me, I'm a music guy. I'm an entertainment person. So I have to, like Sam, I'm always on because there's so many other things that's going on in my world, whether if it's music, if it's this, if it's that. So I have to be in tune to everything. And then every now and then I'll get the, oh, he caught my video. Oh, you didn't like it. Okay, well, hey. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah.
disappoint you.
Yeah.
And I think, too, the article brought up a really interesting point. And I'm not sure, I don't have it in front of me, what year it was where they looked at the board of directors and it being predominantly male and white.
Yeah.
And the author of the article brought up the fact because the people that are targeted and discriminated against on Twitter are specifically women and people of color,
Yeah.
or the LGBTQ community. And so if they had a board, even if they developed like a safety board that represented that community, perhaps they would be a little bit more in tune to what it feels like to be constantly trolled. And yes, they try to come up with things like the filter or mute someone or block someone. But guess what? You mute or block someone and then they can just sign up with a new account.
Almost like a community, or a coalition of ambassadors that represent all those groups. That would be something that.
Right. Because
Yeah, to provide a different perspective.
Yeah.
And look, one of the biggest issues that Twitter had was in the beginning, and to some extent even today, they didn't quite know what their identity was, right? So did they relate more with a company like Verizon, where let's say Verizon is a tool for communication, but you don't have Verizon banning people from calling you and abusing you, right? So did they relate more with a company like that, or do they consider themselves a media company that has some responsibility and obligation to protect its users? Now, I would argue that it's more like a media company, and they have been super inconsistent because they have this very staunch free speech take on things, and then all of a sudden, if there's like, you know, a Twitter user who's in a position of power who feels like he or she is getting abused, Twitter will take action to protect that person.
Yes.
And so they need to be consistent in what they do, and unfortunately they're not. And so look, there are some features that I'd like to see them roll out. So for instance, maybe I don't want to get mentions, right? Maybe a feature that allows you to turn your mentions off. That way I can go on Twitter, I can read my feed and all the people I follow. Only the people that I follow can mention me and comment to me. Like that, maybe that's a better way to do it, right? But right now, I have no interest. And I totally understand that there are fans of the show that watch, that want to communicate, that want to engage. And I apologize that the few bad apples have ruined, not few, I mean, there's a lot of them. They've ruined it in a lot of ways for me. But it is what it is. Look,
you want to watch the whole 2-hour show every day, anywhere you want, anytime you want, with any device you want? That's why we made membership. tytnetwork.com/join. I know what you're thinking.
Give me a break.
You didn't know about it before, but now you do. tytnetwork.com/join.